It's 6:15 a.m. and the first thing you feel, it isn't energy. It's a heavy, crushing weight in your chest. Before your feet have even touched the floor, you've already checked the news, scrolled through 3 headlines about an economic collapse, and read a heated argument between strangers on the internet. I lived this loop for years. I used to spend 2 hours every single morning staying informed. I told myself I was being a responsible adult, a savvy investor, a conscious citizen. But in reality, I was just making myself too anxious to take any real action. I wasn't informed, I was paralyzed. Listen closely, because here is the biological reality. Your brain has a bandwidth cap. Neural imaging confirms that our cognitive resources are a finite currency. Every piece of useless news, every celebrity scandal, every manufactured political outrage you consume is a literal withdrawal from the cognitive bank account you need to build your empire. You think you're staying updated? No. You are depleting the mental energy required for deep work and strategic thinking. If you want to join the top 1%, you have to stop acting like the 99%. The people who think knowing everything about everyone is a virtue. How many years of potential have you already lost to this loop? How many brilliant ideas were smothered in the crib because your brain was too busy processing a tragedy 5,000 miles away? A tragedy you had no power to change. The stakes are higher than you think. Every second you spend staying informed about things that don't move the needle is a second you are choosing to stay average. To understand why we do this, we have to look back at the savannah. For our ancestors, information was a survival mechanism. If a neighboring tribe was moving toward your territory, or if a specific berry was poisonous, knowing that was the difference between life and death. Your Stone Age brain is hardwired to seek out information as if it were a life-saving resource. In a tribal setting, being the most informed person made you the most valuable. You were the early warning system. You were the protector. This is why staying in the loop feels so fundamentally right, even when it's making you miserable. But the 2026 digital environment has created an evolutionary disconnect. Your brain hasn't caught up to the fact that we no longer live in a village of 150 people. We live in a global village of 8 billion. The lions are no longer hiding in the grass. They are hidden in your notifications. Every breaking news alert triggers the same biological stress response as a predator sighting. Your cortisol spikes, your heart rate increases, and your focus narrows. The problem, your brain cannot distinguish between a threat you can act on and a threat that is purely digital noise. When you see a headline about a market crash, your amygdala screams danger, even though you are sitting safely in your home with a cup of coffee. This constant state of low-level alarm is what behavioral data calls cognitive exhaustion. You aren't lazy, you aren't unmotivated, you are biologically drained. Your brain thinks it spent the last 3 hours fighting for its life on the savannah, when in reality, you were just scrolling through a comment section.
This is why your brain thinks safety, which it equates to knowing everything, is better than growth. Growth requires risk, and risk requires mental energy. If all your energy is spent tracking threats on your phone, you have nothing left to invest in your own life. It feels like a constant hum in the back of your mind, a feeling that you're forgetting something important, or that everyone else knows something you don't.
This is the ancestral ghost in your machine, trying to keep you safe by keeping you overwhelmed. We need to realize that in the modern world, security doesn't come from knowing what's happening. It comes from knowing what to ignore. This brings us to the internal enemy, FOMO. The fear of missing out isn't just a social media trend, it is a profound neural glitch. You think you're choosing to check your phone. You think you're choosing to click that link. No, your neurons are actually performing a pre-programmed ritual. Every time you find a new piece of information, your brain releases a tiny hit of dopamine. But here's the trap. Dopamine is not the chemical of pleasure. It is the chemical of anticipation. It doesn't make you feel satisfied. It makes you want to keep looking. You feel this as a restlessness. You finish one article and immediately look for the next. You check your email, then your Instagram, then the news, then back to your email. You are caught in a search and seek loop that never ends because the internet is infinite. You think you're gathering data to make better decisions. No, your brain is actually drowning in trash data. Think about the last 5 breaking stories you followed. Did any of them change how you spent your day? Did any of them increase your bank account, improve your health, or deepen your relationships? The answer is almost certainly no. Yet, your brain treated each of those stories as high-priority information. This creates cognitive dissonance. You feel busy, you feel plugged in, but you aren't actually producing anything. You are a consumer who believes they are a participant. It's like trying to listen to a whisper in a crowded stadium. Eventually, you just stop hearing the whisper. And that whisper? That is your own intuition, your own goals, your own creative voice. You are being robbed of your most valuable asset, your attention. And the thief? It's a biological urge that was designed to save your life, now being weaponized by algorithms designed to sell your time. To truly understand why this is killing your success, let's look at the digital hoarder's attic. Imagine your mind as a house. On the ground floor, you have your wealth engine. This is where you do your deep work, where you make big decisions, and where you build your future. It requires space, light, and total focus. But above this engine is the attic of your subconscious. Every time you consume a piece of junk information, a TikTok drama, a political debate, a news story about a crime in a city you've never visited, you are taking a heavy, wooden box and shoving it into that attic. You might think it's just one box, it's not taking up space on the ground floor, but that is the illusion. In the world of neuroscience, we call this neural friction. Even if you aren't actively thinking about those boxes, your brain is still indexing them. It's using background processing power to keep that information stored, just in case it becomes relevant later. As the years go by, you keep adding boxes: stock market volatility, pandemic fears, what my high school rival is eating for lunch. Eventually, the attic is packed tight. The floorboards begin to groan under the weight. Now, when you sit down to do your deep work, when you try to fire up that wealth engine, you find that it's sluggish. It's covered in the dust of 1,000 distractions. Every time you try to focus on your business plan, a box from the attic leaks. You find yourself thinking about a tweet you read 3 hours ago, instead of the spreadsheet in front of you. This is the biological reality of information overload. Your brain doesn't have a delete key for the emotions that information triggers. When you read something that makes you angry, that anger sits in your attic, radiating heat down into your work area. You are trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation that is being crushed by the weight of the world's junk. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones with the most information. They're the ones with the cleanest attics. They are ruthlessly uninformed about anything that doesn't serve their mission. They don't have neural friction because they don't allow the boxes into the house in the first place. They stand at the door with a shotgun and refuse entry to anything that isn't high-signal, high-value data. How much weight is currently sitting above your head? It's time to stop hoarding and start clearing. Let's look at a historical example of this principle in action. Consider Charles Darwin. Most people think of Darwin as a world traveler, and he was, for 5 years on the HMS Beagle. But for the 40 years after that voyage, the years when he actually wrote On the Origin of Species and changed the world, Darwin lived in almost total selective ignorance. He moved to Down House, a secluded home in the English countryside. He rarely traveled to London. He didn't engage in the daily political squabbles of the Victorian era. Darwin was obsessed with his wealth engine, his theory of evolution. He knew that if he spent his mornings reading the London newspapers and his evenings debating the latest gossip, his brain wouldn't have the quiet bandwidth required to connect the thousands of tiny observations he had made. He intentionally made himself uninformed about the world, so he could be masterfully informed about his work. Neural imaging of modern high performers shows a similar pattern. There is a famous story of Bill Gates and Warren Buffett being asked at a dinner party what the most important factor for their success was. Both men, without hesitation, gave the same one-word answer: focus. But focus is only possible through subtraction. Warren Buffett famously stays in Omaha, Nebraska, far away from the noise of Wall Street. He spends 80% of his day reading, not the news, not Twitter, but financial reports and deep history. He is uninformed about what the market is doing today because he is focused on what the company will be doing in 10 years. Contrast this with the average person. We are the most informed generation in human history, yet we are also the most anxious, the most distracted, and the most financially stagnant. We know everything about the current thing, but we know nothing about our own potential. This is the shadow study of our modern era. We are the subjects in a giant experiment on what happens when a biological brain is flooded with 24/7 global data. The results are in. It leads to decision fatigue. When your brain is forced to process 10,000 pieces of information a day, it loses the ability to distinguish between a $10 decision and a $1 million decision. Darwin, Buffett, and Gates weren't lucky. They were ignorant by design. They protected their cognitive wealth like it was their life's blood. Because, in many ways, it was. They understood that you cannot see the stars if you are constantly looking at the bright lights of the city. You have to go into the dark. You have to be willing not to know.
Now, we have to talk about why you probably won't do this. Why 99% of people watching this will agree with everything I'm saying and then go right back to scrolling. It's because of the ego trap. In our culture, being informed is a status symbol. We use it to signal intelligence and moral superiority. We want to be the person at the dinner table who knows about the latest geopolitical shift. Admitting, I don't know anything about that, it feels like social death. Your ego would rather be smart and broke than ignorant and successful. Being uninformed feels like being out of touch, and to our tribal brains, being out of touch feels like being abandoned by the group. This is the psychological resistance you feel when you think about deleting your news apps or ignoring social trends. Your ego tells you that you need to know these things just in case. It tells you that you are being a good citizen by staying informed about tragedies you cannot help. But the brutal truth? Your awareness helps no one if it paralyzes you. Your ego prefers the problem over the solution because the problem is easy. Complaining about the world's news is a form of cheap virtue. It makes you feel like you've done something significant without you actually having to move a muscle. Building a business is hard. Improving your health is hard. Mastering a skill is hard. Scrolling through the news and feeling informed, that's easy. It's a simulation of progress. If you want to escape the 99%, you have to be willing to look stupid to the 99%. You have to be okay with being the person who hasn't seen the latest viral video. You have to value your own output more than the world's input. Most people are terrified of the silence that comes with selective ignorance, because in that silence, you are forced to face your own life. You are forced to realize that the only thing holding you back isn't the state of the world, but the state of your own focus. Your ego uses the noise of the world to drown out the voice of your own inadequacy. If you stop the noise, you have to face the work. And that is why most people will choose the noise every single time. Are you willing to be the person who doesn't get it so that you can be the person who actually does it? Take a breath. Now that you can name the ghost, it no longer has power over you. The anxiety you've been feeling isn't a flaw in your character. It's a natural reaction to an unnatural environment. You are not broken. You've just been trying to run too many programs at once. Imagine what would happen if you took all that energy you spend tracking the rest of the world and turned it inward. Imagine the strategic clarity that comes when you stop caring about things that don't care about you. When you embrace selective ignorance, you aren't closing your mind, you are clearing your vision. You are deciding that your life is important enough to deserve your full attention. There is a profound peace in the words, "I don't know." It is the ultimate power move. It says, "My time is too valuable to be spent on things that don't serve my purpose." You are no longer the victim of the algorithm. You are the architect of your own information ecosystem. You are the one who decides what gets into the attic. The weight is starting to lift. You can feel the floorboards of your mind stabilizing. The wealth engine is still there, waiting for you to clear away the dust and turn it on. You have the permission to stop caring. You have the permission to be uninformed. This is where your real life begins. So, how do we actually do this? How do we build the wealth engine and protect it? We follow the rule of 3. Step 1, the mental shift, the low information diet. For the next 30 days, commit to being last to know. Do not check the news. Do not click on trending topics. If something truly world-changing happens, someone will tell you. Trust that the high-signal information will find you, and let the low-signal noise die in the void. This creates the neural bandwidth you need to think. Step 2. The biological habit, the 2-hour sanctuary. For the first 2 hours of your day, your phone is a brick. It stays in another room. This is your deep work time. This is when you run the wealth engine. By not allowing any attic boxes in during these first 2 hours, you ensure that your peak cognitive energy is spent on your goals, not the world's drama. Step 3. The environment change.
The curation wall. Unfollow every account that makes you feel anxious, angry, or informed about things that don't matter. Turn off all non-human notifications. If it isn't a message from a real person you care about, your phone should not beep. You are curating a high-signal environment where only data that helps you grow is allowed through the gate. Now, here is the checkmate question. If you deleted every news and social app on your phone today, would your life actually get worse? Or would you just finally have the silence required to get rich? Take a moment, really think about that. Your brain will try to argue. It will tell you that you'll be isolated or ignorant. But look at the people around you who are informed. Are they happy? Are they wealthy? Are they at peace? Or are they just exhausted? Choose the silence. Choose the engine. Your life is the sum of what you pay attention to. If you spend your attention on the trivial, your life will be trivial. If you spend it on the chaotic, your life will be chaotic. The golden rule of the 21st century is simple. Be ruthlessly selfish with your attention so you can be incredibly generous with your results. By choosing to be uninformed, you are actually choosing to be deeply present. You are choosing to build a legacy instead of a list of facts. You are choosing the long-term wealth of a clear mind over the short-term hit of a new headline. In a world that is screaming for your attention, the most revolutionary thing you can do is look away. But be warned, once you clear the attic, you might find something you weren't expecting. There is a silent force that begins to operate when the noise stops, a layer of the mind that most people never reach. We'll explore that silent force in the next video, but for now, just enjoy the quiet.